Hey Dexter, it's been a while.
Hello.
What have you been learning recently that you want to share to the community?
Pushing product into the world is really hard. Um, when our team at Swarm is very product driven, in our style of product is user centric and problem centric. And the more experimentation and the deeper that we learn about what a fractional professional needs and the problems that they have, the scope, because we want to help, tends to go broad. But the reason why I have a job and the reason why you have a job is because prioritizing problems that matter most, prioritizing problems that fractional workers can't solve for themselves, and those that have viable business models behind it is the name of the game. That's what we get paid to do. So being able to narrow, to broaden the scope, to learn about the contours of different aspects of the problem, whether it's tooling, getting access to opportunities, or finding people to work with, getting an understanding that narrowing it down, which part of this problem do we solve first, it's always a challenge to figure out what comes first.
What's interesting to me as a first time design founder is that I'm coming to terms with needing to solve for the business first, right? Because before, I almost exclusively focused on the UI, UX side of things, which is like just making the thing easy to use, making it delightful. But now I have to contend with the fact that, hey, I need to look at the P&L, the profit and loss document, and like, how does this affect the whole system of the whole platform? It's not just designing one off things anymore. It's making sure it's aligned in terms of the vision, the mission, the business, and then that's when you get to the actual product
Yeah.
and the list of features and the user stories. So it's 10 times harder than
Yeah.
what I've experienced so
Not
far.
just, it's kind of like, you know how they say, like the expression threading a needle, putting a thread through the eye of a needle. It's like aligning 10 needles and getting the same thread to go through all of them. I completely empathize. A large part of, and it's we're entering into a capital winter. Actually, we're kind of right in the middle of it. And the big thing that most venture capitalists are coming to a conclusion for is that growth focused or growth at all cost focused businesses are the ones that are not going to survive. And the demand to invest in those kinds of businesses are the one, they're just not going to become as investable anymore. I think VCs, in the era of expensive capital, in the era of tight investing, growth bets and moonshots are increasingly hard to come by. They're extremely difficult to argue on the basis of potential growth and monetization down the line than here. And I think that's the reality. Building a company in a global company that is in many emerging markets, Swarm needs to be disciplined about its business model. We have to we are building a company with strong economic fundamentals because we never had access to easy capital. We shouldn't build a business model that is destined to lose more money than it makes, right? An investor recently told me it's very easy to sell a dollar for 50 cents. So we need to be in the mindset of building sustainable businesses. I think the best way to think about how to align product and business mechanics, product and business model, is value creation and value capture. Are you creating economic value for your user? Like, are you helping them make more money or save more time? And are you capturing that value as revenue to yourselves? Okay. So I think the way in which, if you're concerned about, oh, I don't know how to build, I'm not a finance guru, but I'm a strong product person. I think the way in which to look at building product with strong fundamentals is think about, well, what kind of economic value are you creating for your user? And then how are you capturing that value as revenue to your company?
Normally, a designer would be very focused about making things pretty, right? And in the advent of I think majority of these things will be commodified. As we talked about in the latest podcast with Dan, like a lot of the things that designers think they should be doing will be very easy to do. And that means people will need to focus more on the strategic end and making sure that the vision is executed properly with the value creation and value capture in mind. And I fear that a lot of designers are not ready for that, or at least, especially in the Philippines, where there's not a lot of environments where you can actively practice that. And even if you, let's say, are able to join, like I don't know, a YC company or, any normal startup, it's hard to practice it, right? What's your advice to, you know, our fractional workers who have to contend with this reality?
Yes. So I think that all the companies and organizations that I've been a part of have focused on the problem, have been problem centric. And I think ultimately, when you're problem centric, when you're solving a problem for a person that can't solve themselves, you are always forced to ask questions beyond aesthetic. I actually think you're selling yourself short and the design profession short, which is when you say that it's really about making things look pretty. Pretty is, yes, it achieves an emotional state and is able to attract people and motivate people in certain ways, but design ultimately is problem solving. It's design and not art. Art is tells a story and evokes emotion, but design additionally solves a problem. It's functional by nature. It's functional by design, by
My
intent.
favorite quote about the definition of design is from Jared Spool, which is design is the rendering of intent. And where that intent comes from is understanding all the variables at play. And to me, at least, as a design founder, operating in the founder plane is so much more different than being an individual contributor in a product team.
Right.
Because there's so many more things to synthesize than usual. Have you ever felt that way when you started, as a founder?
Yes, absolutely. I think that as a founder, it's your responsibility to keep your eyes on the horizon, to think about the vision of the world that you have when your problem is solved, when your solution reaches maturity. As a founder, you're always thinking about how the world will change, how the market will change, and how individuals will change. So I think that absolutely, it's kind of like big data as opposed to a small data string. That's practically what it is. You have to look at trends. You have to be able to observe a lot of moving pieces and come to theory, create theory and hypotheses of how you can impact all the different variables and data points that are at play. It's a large part. It's not about precise predictive planning. It's about navigating and triangulating. And yes, you have to navigate through. So both as somebody who's built product, you and I, we've been, you essentially try to isolate problems and you actually force people down the path such that you can both measure and then also help them achieve. Like typically if one page has more than 2 CTAs, you're like, no,
Yeah.
it's bad practice. But in real life, there's so many different factors that can affect the viability of your business. And you have to be able to have an opinion such that you are moving forward towards a direction, but at the same time synthesizing new information such that you can navigate. If you're too focused on the market and only looking at competition, then you'll start to look like everyone else.
Mm.
If you are very focused only on a single problem, you won't be able to achieve that vision in the forward. The role of a founder is always being able to zoom in and zoom out in quick sequence and make decisions in that process.
Let's talk about community, right? Because we personally think that it's a differentiator. And AI is coming along, everything is synthesized. And especially for a freelancer, you're always going to feel alone most of the time. Like in a longer time horizon, because you're not part of any firm or your teams change. Why do we have, or why have we been working in this space in the first place? You're the CEO, so you should have the answer to this.
When you work for a company, there's always the tendency for the company's vision, its sustainability, and its profit motive to always supersede yours as an individual. The world has come to the conclusion that it sucks being an employee. It's exploited. It can be exploitative, and in the world where people, even though companies right now are sitting on wads of cash, they are trying to extend their runway and cutting ties with people that they have longstanding relationships with. I think at the end of the day, community is the opposite of extracting. In the context of community, it's the role of the community to empower the individual. That, no, actually, let me rephrase that. I think what we're doing at Swarm is even challenging the notion of what a community is. We are challenging the notion that in a community, it's about the collective interest. What we're doing at Swarm is we're mobilizing the community to empower the individual, to create opportunity for individuals and to enable individuals to learn and become independent. I think that for Swarm, for working for many, for large corporations and for tech companies specifically, the individual professional's growth, their individual mission, their individual purpose statement is always subject to the bottom line. And as we see, companies' bottom lines oftentimes don't really care about individuals. Often they don't even care about society.
It's just money.
It's just
That's it.
money. How else, when you're driven by market forces, everyone is incentivized to be greedy. And we are specifically creating an economy where people are incentivized to help each other.
Because
That's,
usually there's no choice, right? Like you would need to work for that structure instead. Because you have to provide for your basic needs.
yeah.
Because there's no other way of working.
Now, here's kind of like the hidden gem in all of this. Companies, it's expensive for companies to have employees because you have to spend a lot of money to recruit really fast when you're growing, and it's really expensive for them to lay people off when it comes down to downsize. And the same thing for individuals. They are tired of this exclusive long-term relationship with companies where their sense of purpose is not in alignment. So I think really what the labor market is looking for is flexibility on both ends. Companies are looking for a way to get access to the skills and talent and professionals that they need when they need it, but not have to carry it when they want to downsize, when their business objectives change. At the same time, professionals are looking for more independence to work when they want, on what they want to work on, with whom they want to work with. So what we're doing at Swarm is we're creating the connective tissue, the platform that enables that upsizing and downsizing of commitment. Well, what is that connective tissue? That connective tissue is community. People opening up opportunities for each other, people opening up growth and learning for each other, and connecting each other and teaming up with each other when an opportunity comes up. So what enables the flexibility in the labor market is a sense of community. And the bit that we're doing is platformatizing it, turning the community into something that's enabled by and scaled through technology.
We're entering an age of AI. What do you think matters most?
In the age of AI, much of what is produced individually is going to be automated. The one thing that AI cannot replace is your connection and your relationship to other people. We're leaning in to building relationships between amazing people and using those relationships and leveraging those relationships to create opportunities for each other. I think AI can solve so many problems in terms of productivity, automating baseline tasks or front end tasks, but it won't replace a human's fundamental need to connect with and find fulfillment in building relationships with others. And I think that is the vision of the future that we've always been working towards. And I think that's what makes it exciting.